I'm going to do two things this morning that in future I won't do. Number one, I'm going to talk at some length. And number two, I'm going to use a script. I hope you will indulge me. I'm doing this because, number one, I want you to get a better sense of me and how I see Barrick's future, and through me, where we think the company is going. And secondly, I want to be very clear and run no risk that there's a lack of clarity in what I'm saying and what you're hearing. Now, before I do that, I also want to address the topic of the day, the say-on-pay vote. We don't know the exact vote right now, but we do know from early returns, and I have no reason to think things will have changed, that the vote will be something like 75% against, 25% in favor. Now, that's obviously not where we want to be, and that's obviously not where you want us to be. So I want you to know we've heard you loud and clear, both through your expression on the vote and through the in-depth, intensive conversations that Brett Harvey, our lead director, has had with many of our largest investors. We will now take that feedback. We will go back and refine our system, particularly as it relates to me, and with the goal next year of this vote being at a minimum the opposite of the vote this year, and preferably a whole lot better than that. One other point I want to make about compensation, and this is a very, very fundamental point. We believe strongly that our people should be owners, not that they should be aligned with the owners. Alignment to us implies having to kind of line things up 3 degrees this way, 4 degrees that way, and you may not know whether you're in alignment. We want to be the same. We want to be owners. So that is the operating philosophy behind our system, and that will remain the operating philosophy. Now, on to the substance of my remarks, and as I say, I'm going to go on at some length, so bear with me here. Let me begin by offering two contrasting statistics. First, there is the finding by McKinsey that 70 to 90% of a company's value is related to cash flows 3 years or more into the future. And second is the finding in a survey by the Financial Analyst Journal that 8 in 10 executives would improve quarterly earnings even if it came at the expense of long-term value creation. This contrast becomes less of a paradox when we consider that the majority of senior executives are compensated on the basis of short-term results with a short-term currency, cash. Dominic Barton, the global managing director of McKinsey, and a very good Canadian, by the way, wrote recently in the Harvard Business Review, and I'm quoting here, "If the vast majority of most firms' value depends on results more than 3 years from now, but management is preoccupied with what's reportable 3 months from now, then capitalism has a problem." He might also have added that 3/4 of fund managers are compensated in cash tied to short-term results, usually some kind of 3, 6, or 12-month benchmark. Our own industry suffered from this focus on short-term results throughout the decade-long bull market in gold. As gold prices rose, companies made huge investments based on the premise that gold prices would keep rising indefinitely. The market, for its part, rewarded growth in ounces, betting that rising gold prices would make projects with low returns more attractive over time. Leaders were richly rewarded with cash payments in the short term. But a few years later, mines built in the height of the boom are now operating at a loss, and we have seen and continue to see large write-downs across the industry. Barrick was no exception, and as owners, we are painfully aware of the value that has been destroyed. We are working tirelessly to rebuild that value and to regain your trust and confidence. We have the best assets in the world, and we are determined to be the world's leading gold company once again. That means a company that consistently grows free cash flow per share across a wide range of market conditions and delivers industry-leading returns to our owners. Today, I want to share with you our plan to do just that. The plan involves taking Barrick back to the future. We all know that every great company, at some point along the way, starts to drift. It loses hold of its original DNA, the founding purpose, values, and culture that drove the company's success. What the company's leaders must do is identify that core DNA and work to give it modern expression. In its early years, Barrick was a case study in the creation of long-term value. The company was lean, nimble, and fiercely entrepreneurial. Peter Monk led a small team of passionate entrepreneurs in what was, at its heart, a partnership. Everyone knew everyone, everyone trusted everyone. They shared responsibility for the company's success and accountability for its failures. Their personal wealth was tied to the company's fortunes. They found world-class people to manage the mines and let them run them. The mines were expected to grow free cash flow, which Peter and his partners invested to grow value per share. This model is consistent with history's most successful businesses. New research shows that in the past 50 years, the leaders who delivered the greatest returns to owners saw their job almost exclusively as allocating capital, both human and financial. They found the right people to run the right assets and left it to those managers to grow free cash flow, which the business leaders then reinvested to meet rigorous expectations for returns. It is to this proven model and the purpose and values that drive it that we are returning. There are three broad themes. One, we are reinvigorating Barrick's partnership culture. Two, we are overhauling the operating model. And three, we are bringing renewed discipline to capital allocation. So if you remember nothing from my talk this morning, remember those three things. Number one, the partnership culture, which is all about people. Capital allocation, which is about the money. And the operating model, which is about the execution, delivering the results. Okay, first, our partnership culture. Partnership was at the heart of Barrick's early success. It is our core value and the foundation upon which we will rebuild long-term value for our owners. We are reinstilling partnership in every dimension of the business. A partnership, of course, is only as good as its people. And we are once again becoming obsessed with talent. We elevated Darian Rich, sitting right over there, to the role of Executive Vice President, Talent Management. Among other things, this ensures that people issues are now front and center at every weekly meeting of Barrick's most senior leaders. In fact, to be literal, people issues are the first topic of our weekly meeting every single time. Darian also now reports to the board on people issues at every meeting, and the board regularly engages in deep talent diagnosis. Our focus on talent has led us to hire a host of new, exceptional leaders. These individuals personify the company's original values. They also bring vital skills and experience that speak directly to the core challenges facing the business. Here are just a few examples. Kevin Thompson, sitting right out there in the audience, one of Canada's leading securities lawyers, has joined Barrick as Senior Executive Vice President, Strategic Matters. As many of you know, Kevin was a key strategic advisor to Barrick for nearly 2 decades. And when someone of his caliber leaves a post at the top of one of Canada's leading law firms to come to Barrick, we see that as a major vote of confidence. He understands the company and our culture inside and out. Our new CFO, Sean Usmar, sitting right over here, comes to Barrick after serving as one of the founding leaders of Xstrata, one of the most entrepreneurial teams in the industry. Among other things, Kevin and Sean are bringing tremendous skill to our work in strengthening our balance sheet and bringing rigor to capital allocation. Sergio Fuentes, who thankfully is not here. He's the new executive project director of Pascalama. He's hard at work, I hope. He has nearly 30 years of mining experience in Chile and has a proven track record of directing complex mining projects, including high-altitude operations in the Andes. He is charged with cutting current spending to the minimum necessary and creating a long-term plan that works and meets our demanding hurdle rates. Kathy Sipos, she's here somewhere, returns to Barrick as our Senior Vice President for Business Program Integration. Kathy was part of the team leading Barrick at the height of its success, and she will be working with our senior leadership to accelerate the process of going back to the future. She doesn't have to learn the Barrick DNA. She is the Barrick DNA. Dana Easthope, our most recent announcement, is joining Barrick as Vice President and Corporate Secretary. Dana has extensive experience in matters of corporate governance, and he will play a central role in rebuilding trust and confidence with our owners. He comes to us from Sun Life Financial, which has ranked number 1 or 2 in the Globe and Mail board games for the last several years. Wu Li is our new president for China, and I don't think I need to emphasize how important it is for any leading company to have a distinctive relationship with the Chinese. Wu was a career Foreign Service officer in the U.S. State Department and has deep knowledge of the complex Chinese system. He's ensuring we build a distinctive partnership with China, which will lead to long-term value creation. We have also promoted top internal talent across the organization. For instance, Rich Haddock has been promoted to General Counsel. Rich has deep experience in every facet of the business, literally from the mine face to the boardroom. And he and I were just last Friday in Chongqing on the very difficult topic of what we do about Pakistan. And after the meeting, I wrote Kelvin a note. I said, Kelvin, this is the perfect guy for this job. A highly commercial, sophisticated, nuanced lawyer who knows mining cold. And then finally, Calvin Pond has been elevated to Senior Vice President for Finance and Tax. In this new role, we want Calvin to help bring his level of conscience, rigor, and quality control to the whole organization. And Calvin's busy at work right now helping us sell Porgera and Cowell. We've also infused the culture of partnership into our management structure. We now have 2 co-presidents who share joint responsibility and accountability for the company's performance. Expectations from all of our stakeholders are on the rise, and securing our license to operate has never been more complex. Our success will depend on how well we build long-term external partnerships based on trust. In mining, the strongest competitive advantage you can have is to be the company everybody wants to do business with. We therefore elevated Kelvin from his license to operate role to co-president. By pairing him with Jim, we are ensuring that our mining teams and our license to operate teams are completely integrated, 2 halves working as a unified whole towards a common objective. Kelvin and Jim report to me, and I hold them jointly responsible on behalf of the board. Naturally, there's a division of labor between them, and they are people who enjoy working in a collaborative environment. Their teamwork, in turn, has been driving greater collaboration and a sense of shared ownership throughout the business. This approach is seen by many as unconventional, but it is foundational for rebuilding Barrick's early model of success. We are also extending the principle of partnership to other leaders in the business. Just as with Peter and his fellow partners in the company's earlier days, we are not looking to align with the interests of owners, we are looking to be owners. We have therefore extended our partnership plan to our 35 highest performers across the business, and we will expand this group further. Each year, partners will be graded not only on their individual performance, but also on their collective performance, as measured against a transparent long-term scorecard disclosed in advance. The majority of their total compensation, if earned, will be awarded in Barrick common shares, which cannot be sold until an individual retires or leaves the company. My position is not included in the partnership plan in order to preserve my independence from management. This allows me, on behalf of the board, to monitor management performance free of any conflict of interest. My compensation is set, however, using the exact same approach. In both cases, the goal is to ensure that we are all focused on building an enduring enterprise and growing the long-term value of the company. And because I believe so strongly in this principle, and in Barrick, and in its people, I have bought one Barrick share for every share I have earned in compensation. That brings my total ownership position to roughly 1.4 million shares, half of which I have purchased with my own money. I'm not aligned with you. I'm one of you. I am you. A strong partnership culture leads organically to the second theme of taking Barrick back to the future, the overhaul of our operating model. We have fully decentralized our operations. We have driven responsibility and accountability down to the level of the mines, shrunk our head office in half, and cut all management layers between the two. These changes have already saved us a lot of money, but the real value is on our culture over the long term. Those running the mines are now free from bureaucracy and middle management. If they have a problem, they call Jim Gowans or Kelvin Dushnitsky directly. It's up to them to grow free cash flow as they see fit while behaving as responsible citizens in the countries and communities with which we partner. With our mines being run by the right people and our head office is free to focus primarily on the allocation of people and capital. Here are the principles that are now driving our decisions around the allocation of capital. First and foremost, our focus is gold. We have no plans to diversify into other metals, and we have no plans to add to our existing copper position. Going forward, we will focus our investments in our core regions, North and South America, and on high-quality, long-life assets. We expect our portfolio to deliver a 10 to 15% return on invested capital through the metal price cycle, and as such, we will assess any individual project against our hurdle rate of 15%. We will defer, cancel, or sell projects that cannot meet our expectations. Of course, we recognize that achieving our target hurdle rates will require relentless, outstanding execution. As such, we will hold leadership accountable to ensure that we meet our cost and schedule commitments. When it comes to investing in our existing mines to sustain or expand them, we will not spread our capital evenly across the portfolio. Our operations must compete for it, and we're not going to subsidize loss makers. In the fullness of time, investments in new projects will compete with acquisitions and share buybacks. We have launched detailed evaluations of all of our mines. These reviews allow us to set rigorous expectations for performance and returns and to identify which mines will receive capital and which will be sold. At the same time, we continue to scrub our existing sustaining capital budget for 2015 to ensure every dollar is spent in line with our capital allocation requirements. Since January, we have identified $200 million in cuts to capital spending, and we expect further reductions both this year and into 2016. In keeping with our decentralized model, our mine managers are taking the lead on identifying opportunities. For example, both our Cortez and our Turquoise Ridge mines are now targeting a 35% reduction of their original 2015 budget. And a multidisciplinary team of our leading experts is working with our mine managers to reassess the economic potential of every mine. So far, we have identified significant additional value above and beyond existing mine plans and expect to uncover more as we proceed. To take one example, we've just completed a review of Pueblo Viejo, and we've identified many ways to increase efficiencies and create more value, such as extending the mine life through a series of actions that would allow us to convert approximately 7 to 8 million ounces of mineral resources into mineral reserves. More efficient operations and more rigorous capital allocation will allow us to strengthen our balance sheet. As we announced in February, we will reduce our debt by at least $3 billion this year. We will reach that number by pulling on several levers at once. We will draw on the increased free cash flow that stems from cutting costs and increasing the efficiency of our operations, and that includes reducing the carrying cost at Pascua-Lama. We will engage in joint ventures if and when they make sense, and we will sell non-core assets. We have a number of productive sales processes underway, and we will share with you the results as they develop. We have strong liquidity, which lets us bring discipline to these asset sales. That, in short, is the Barrick we are working to build. The right people in the right roles focused on the right things. A small head office focused on the disciplined allocation of people and capital. World-class miners and country directors focused on growing free cash flow. And everyone working together as partners with deep emotional and financial engagement, incentivized to focus on consistently growing free cash flow per share for our fellow owners. We consider it a joy and a privilege to unlock the enormous inherent value of this iconic company for its owners. We own some of the world's cornerstone mining assets, and we have the lowest operating cost among the senior gold producers. Now we are bringing to these elements the entrepreneurial partnership culture that first made Barrick great. We recognize we are only at the beginning of this journey. The initiatives I have laid out today are foundational. In many ways, the real work begins now, and we are determined to deliver the greatest possible value for you, our fellow owners, over the long term. Thank you very much, and I will now turn the meeting back over to Kelvin.